Everyone. So this is the third short video. In this one, we're going to do a bit more. I want to do a couple of things, or a few things really. I want not only to show you one more time downloading the file from P5JS editor, but also how to set it up like I did in the previous one. But first and foremost, I want to show you how to put it into a div, like a wrapper, right? It's not as easy, typically, as just wrapping the script tag inside of the wrapper. It doesn't quite work that way. And then a couple of other things too, right? First, let's make the sketch. It's something we've done before, right? It's just going to be a bunch of random circles. I'll put this at 900. At 0. Just a bunch of random circles appearing or with different colors, right? Let's see. So let's see. What do I need to put here? Anything there? I can't think of actually anything. I'm gonna put no stroke. So no stroke. You can have a stroke if you want. I'm not going to. Okay. So I need to assign. Yeah, I do need some variables. Let's do that up at the top. So declare variables for circle var x, y, d. And I'm not going to assign values here because I want them to be random, right? I'm going to just put a bunch of random circles that appear randomly of size and the x and y, as well as color too. So let's do x, y, d, and c for color. To assign values, I'm going to do that this time in the draw function. So assign random values to circle. D equals random, the diameter equals random, let's say 5 to 150, not too big. X equals random. Now I don't want them to be cut off by the edges of the canvas, so it's going to be d over 2 width minus d over 2. And y, same thing. Just copy and paste that. Not width though, but height. So that means that we'll always see full circles instead of it's not going to be positioned on the edge so that half the circle is cut off, for example. And then C for color. Okay, so we have, now let's just use those values to draw our circle, right? And see what we got. Okay, I did something wrong. It's not giving me what I expected. Why is it? What did I do wrong? XYD, XYDC, XYD. It's just staying there. Oh, I put equals instead of minus. It should be minus, not equals. Hello. There, that's what I wanted, right? And we could even do that thing where it fades in or out, I guess. Let's see how that works. 20, let's say. Okay. So I think we're done, right? Just a simple little sketch, nothing fancy. Let me give it a name. I'll call it test, test 03. Save it. Oh, that didn't work. Test 03. Okay, so it's saved. I got my circles working. Simple sketch, right? Now it starts out simple like this, but then we're going to make some changes once we've downloaded it. All right, now I'm not going to make any changes. I haven't put this in folders like I did for the first video. Normally I do that, right? If I'm going to start working in P5JS editor, which I don't always do, I'll show you in the next video how to just, instead of doing anything at all in the P5JS editor, just to get started directly in your own folders, you can do that. But now I'm going to download it. Okay, and then I'm going to stop this and then access it in my downloads folder. There it is again. Right. Just like before, I have a new folder that I've created called test3 this time. Just going to drag these guys in there. Okay. Create folders for them. All right, I think I got all of them. Yeah, I did. All right, so HTML, CSS, JS, media. All right, even though I'm not using the HTML and media for now. So P5JS. Okay, drag those into the JS folder, CSS into the CSS folder. These guys, arrange them nicely. All right, get rid of this window, which we don't need now. All right, so I'm going to, just like before, I'm going to do this in the P5JS video tutorials files window folder, right? So I can show you all three. I didn't close this. Oh, I did. Okay. So let me start up my server. ls where I am. I want to change to desktop. So cd desktop ls to list the files and folders there. I'm going to start my server in this folder like before. So cd, I didn't copy it. Right, and then hit enter, and then now I'm in that folder, which is this folder, and I'll list files, and I'll see test01, test01.mov, test02, test02.mov, and test03, which is where I am here, right? I'm not going to navigate to test03. I'm just going to start my server here in the parent folder, right? P5JS tutorials files folder. So let's do that. python3 -m http.server. Enter. Okay. So I've started it. Now http localhost 8000. And it lists what I would be, basically lists these folders and files right here. I want to navigate to this one, and nothing is showing up, right? That's because when I was in here, I dragged all those files into their respective folders, right? The styles into the CSS, the JS into the JS folders, but I didn't change my index. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the JS folder files have been dragged into the JS folder, so I'll put JS here. The CSS file is in the CSS folder, so I'll put CSS there. Now I'm going to first see how this works, but then I'm also going to refer, instead of to these online files, I'm going to refer to the local files, which are here, right? Right now it's referring to the online files, but I want to refer to the local ones, as I said in the previous video. All right, let's save that. Let's go back to the browser, reload the page. Doesn't always work, so I have to delete my browsing history those three dots in Chrome, and then delete browsing history. Delete. Close the window and reload the page. And there we go. It's working. Okay. Just like before, it works. Now let me, like I said, what I wanted to do is to just refer to the local files, right? The ones that are in my JS folder. So instead of referring to the online versions of these files, I'm just going to refer to the ones in my JS folder. That's generally, in my opinion, a better way to go, because this will then work even if you don't have an internet connection. But also, it's just best, even if you do ultimately upload this to a server online, let's say, you only have to rely on the availability of your server, not someone else. So what if that server, the online server where these files are located, what if that goes down for some reason, right? Then your site won't work either. But if it's if you refer to them locally to your site, it'll work no matter what. All right, so I'm going to save that. Let's see if it still works. Reload the page. Let me delete browsing history again, just to make sure it's not referring to the... And it still works, right? That's because I'm referring to those files that are local. I mean, those JS files that are local. Okay, let's make a few changes, though. Now, remember, if I go to my sketch file, this is what I saw before, right? It's exactly the same code as I did on the editor. I just downloaded it, right? Now, that's for the sketch, but in the index, we should notice that we don't have a wrapper here, and normally we put things in a wrapper. So I'm going to get rid of this main set of tags here because it's not being used. And I'll put a div tag with the ID wrapper like we normally do. Right, so now it's in the wrapper. It doesn't even have to be here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it there for now. It doesn't really matter where this is, and I'll show you that in a second, at least in this case. But if I change this, nothing's going to happen in my browser, right? Even if I delete my browsing history, nothing's going to change. It ends up being the same thing. One thing is I haven't styled the wrapper. So why don't I go ahead and style the wrapper in my CSS the way we normally style it, which is width, let's say 60%, margin 0 auto. Now so we can see this, let's set the background color to just bright magenta, something really bright, just so we can see it. I'm going to set the HTML to the height to 100%, and then the wrapper also height to 100%, 1000. All right, so I have the wrapper here. I'm referring to the wrapper that's right here, right? That I just inserted into my HTML. All right, so there's my wrapper, saving that file, saving my index. Now let's go reload the page. Delete browsing history. There we go. Now it's gone. I see my wrapper, which is magenta, and notice if I scroll down, there's my sketch, not in my wrapper. It's there, but it's not in the wrapper. Now if I look here, it's the script, right, is here. But like I said, it doesn't really matter where we put this, at least in the way we have it. I also notice we don't have a title, so nothing appears up here. So I'm going to change this stuff up a little bit, like to make it look like we normally make it look. I'm going to put the meta tag up here where we normally put it. I'm going to put the title tag here. And this one is sketch P5JS sketch inside wrapper. Okay. And then I'll just move this script tag here just to show you that it's not really going to change anything. Reload the page. The sketch is still there, but it's not in the wrapper. And that's because we have to change some things in the sketch itself to make it work. Okay. So, I need another variable. Now this variable is going to contain the canvas, right? This thing right here, this is being drawn in something called the canvas, which is an HTML element. So I'm going to create a variable, create variable for canvas. I'm going to call it can, why not? And then in where I am creating my canvas in the setup, I'm going to assign it that value to the variable. So can equals that. So now can actually contains the dimensions for the canvas. It contains the canvas for all intents and purposes. Okay? But what I want is to put the canvas, which is now called can, I want to put the canvas inside this div called wrapper. Okay? That's actually quite simple. Now that I've done this, the canvas is inside of this variable, I'm going to say that the parent of the canvas, right? So remember, can contains the sketch. That the parent of the sketch is the wrapper. How do I do that? Well, this way. The parent of the sketch is the wrapper, right? This is the sketch, can is the sketch, and then its parent is now the wrapper. I'm making the parent of the sketch the wrapper. That means the sketch belongs to the wrapper now. So when I reload my page, let me delete browsing history again, reload my page, and now my canvas is inside the wrapper. Okay? All right. But I want this canvas to take on the width of the wrapper. Right? I want it to be, if I make my wrapper bigger or smaller, I don't want that to happen. I don't want it to be smaller. I don't want it to be bigger, right? I want it to be the width, the full width of the wrapper. Well, that's because I'm setting it right now to the dimensions 900 by 500, right? So I want those to adapt to the size of the canvas. And so how do I do that? So create a function, that assures that the canvas will be the full width of the wrapper. And I want this to happen from the very beginning. So window.onLoad equals function. I need a couple of variables for the width of the canvas. Let's put those there. So var wh. So the width of the canvas equals, if I want it to be the width of the wrapper, right, I need to do document.get element by ID. Remember, that's the wrapper is an ID. And what about the wrapper? It's what we call the offset width. So the offset width of the wrapper is now going to be the, well, eventually will be the width of the canvas. Okay, now what about the height? Well, I want the height to maintain its proportional dimensions, right? To maintain this ratio. No matter what the width is, I want the height to maintain proportions, which is 9 by 5, right? So height equals W, which is going to be whatever that is, times 500 over 900. Ratio of height to width, which we see down below. Okay, which is what it originally was set to. Okay, so it's going to maintain that ratio. I don't have to be 500 by 900 because it could just be 5 by 9, which is the same thing, right? Okay, what's the next step? Well, I want these to be the width of my canvas now. So instead of 900 by 500, I put W and H. Okay. Oh, now I'm going to save that. Reload my page. And there we see it's full width of the canvas now. And it's going to be that, oh, that's not supposed to happen. Oh, that's right. I haven't done, there's one last thing. So it takes the full width of the canvas, but when I resize it, right? When I resize it, it doesn't change. It only takes the initial full width. So if I make my window really big, it's the full width of that. If I make it small, it takes on that width, whatever it is at the start, right? I can make it super small, and it's going to be that width. But if I make it bigger, it just stays that width. So how do I make it adapt whenever I change the size of the browser window? That's the question. Well, okay, we need a function that is called when we change the size of the browser window. And when we change the size of the browser window, like what I was doing when I was dragging this in and out, I want the canvas to change as well whenever I change the size of the browser window. Okay, so I need a function, which I'm going to put down here at the bottom, and it's called, it already exists in P5.js, so it's function window resized. Now what do I want to do? Well, in this function, I basically want to do the same thing I did up here, right? Which is to set the width of the canvas, W and H, to what we call the offset width of the wrapper, and then the proportional, keep that proportional relationship the same. And then tell the canvas, tell the browser that the canvas is in this variable and that it's, well, let's just try a few things. Basically, let's start with this, right? I'm just going to copy and paste that, right? That just tells me the widths and the height. And I'll put that there. Same thing, right? Determining that the width, or W, is the offset width of the wrapper, and that the height is 5/9 of that. So it starts the way we expect, but then if I resize, it still is not working. Well, why not? Well, remember, the setup function only happens once at the beginning. So if I want to resize it, I need to do it again, right? Resize. So I basically have to do this too. So I'm just going to copy and paste the setup stuff except for the no stroke and put it underneath here, right? So all of those things need to be redone when I resize my window. Okay, saving that, reloading, takes the size of the canvas. Now also when I make it bigger or smaller, same thing. It stays the size of the canvas. Okay, so that's that. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to make it into the background instead of in a div in the next video.